What's the date?
June 12th.
June 12th.
2003.
2003.
July?
July. Yeah. Man, July 12th, 2003. Detroit, Michigan. At Brother Atiba King's Temple of Tahuti. What is it called?
Temple of Ma'at Tahuti.
Temple of Ma'at Tahuti.
Yeah. I call the house the Vortex, you know.
The Vortex.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started lecturing for him in when? I know it was 98.
Yeah, 98.
September, October, or something. It was
Something
fall,
like that.
fall of 1998. We did about what now? How many lectures?
It was, I mean, since then?
Since then? Man.
Shit, I don't know.
About 8?
I think it's been about 3 a year at least.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 3 a year.
And every time you come in, it's a minimum 2 days, sometimes
Yeah,
3.
minimum 2 days. And yeah, so we've been doing this. Like I've always said, I first started here in 94. We did two for Elaine, for Sister Elaine, you know, down at the Peach, what's that, down at the Renaissance Hotel, or whatever, at that time. Did 2 for her, and then didn't get back this way until 98, you know, until 1998. But it's been a smoker. Every time I come, it's always off the wall, powerful. The energy is always hitting. So we're going to do it again. Today we're going to do a specialized lecture. We got 2 parts. We got to do one on the rising of Ishtar, which is divine feminine energy. Divine feminine energy, and it's actually a result of what came out of the Iraqi war. And so, for every cause, there's an effect. And so there's something that did come out of that on the spiritual side. We're going to get into all that tomorrow on that particular aspect. But what I want to do here is I've been doing research in melanin for the last 11, 12 years. And so as a result, I kind of have a lot of the stuff spread out over 200 lectures. So what I decided to do was to make a compilation of this thing and compile it into one lecture, as well as the new research into that, because always ongoing research into the melanin thing, as well as also I did one a couple of years ago. I did one about 3 years ago in 2001. Unfortunately, it was good. It was about a good 6 hours, but no, it was a good 4-hour lecture. But melanin is so vast until it needs a lot more time than that. So what I want to do is to do a groundbreaking critical lecture on melanin, and a very important lecture. And if the Spirit let us, we're going to try to jam all this into one lecture, because it's just that much stuff. If you know that lecture is the fabric of the universe and the triple blackness of space, as well as above, so below, we carry it, then you know that basically melanin, there's nothing that you can deal with that doesn't have some form of melanin. Most of the research that the white boys is doing for the last 10 years has all been melanin based. Most of the drugs, most of everything is centered around melanin. So what we're going to do is today is to try to go into an elaborate array of breaking this down, the melanin, the pineal gland, and all the other stuff, and tying it together. We're going to go from things as common as the Bible, and, you know, as remote as scientific aspects of new scientific information. So we're going to try to do all of that today. Plus, like I said, I have bibliography. I always bring the ammunition, so we got enough of that type of stuff. Enough of that type of information also to break this down. So, how many people, did I ever do the 777 here where I gave the numbers and you would add them up and find out what God and goddess you were? Did I ever do that here before? I think, yeah. Well, I'll go back into some of that tomorrow just to see just how this stuff lines up, because all this stuff is ongoing research. But and also we'll be giving you out information on what is good for melanin. You know, what kind of foods, what kind of conditions you need to be in, different things like that. we'll be dealing with all of that type of aspect. I don't know whether I should break the ground now for a question and answer. A question and answer now to get the ball rolling, or do it later, because we have a lot of material here. The Spirit been giving it to me for the last 2 days. So basically what it is I say, well, when it comes, it'll come. So, and it just started coming. So as a result, I've been working all yesterday and today, just writing down stuff. It's just coming out of the head. And it's just basically remembering things over the last 12 years as well as the new stuff. And then not only that, I have to remember what bibliography goes with it, so I can give you also stuff that you can study or document this type of information. So right now I'm going to open up with a question and answer on melanin, if anybody has any questions right now. And then we can go into the actual lecture. We can go into the actual lecture as we go on. I'll start off with this passage here. This is the book Gerald Manson's Lectures. You've heard me talk about this before. This Gerald Manson's Lectures he has 6 volumes. 6 volumes out. They cost like they're $50 each paperback and probably $90 hardback. But you can get all 6. You can get a synopsis of the 6 volumes in this one book, Gerald Manson's Lectures. This is an excellent book. This is an excellent book. Massey is one of the greatest Egyptologists of all time that was shunned by his white counterparts because of the simple fact he told the truth.
Okay.
Because he told the truth. There's a chapter in this particular book called, the section is called The Devil of Darkness, The Evil in Light of Evolution, page 141, which is interesting because he's trying to give you a synopsis of what this whole devil thing is that people are scared of, and I've been talking about this for years. And to this day I say, well, I'm from the dark side, and people go, ooh, still scared of this thing. And most conscious people are still weary about, wow, man, I just don't know about all of that. But he also did a synopsis. There's a bigger one. He has one in this book where he showed the Egyptian aspect of the Christ, of Horus, and he shows the Jesus parallel. So it'll show you all of this stuff, and if you get the book of the day, his Light of the World, he shows that particular parallel. Literally hundreds of parallels of the thing between Jesus and Horus and Heru. Since then, there's a cassette that came out, and we pretty much have an access to just about all the conscious videos in the country. We have some access from different people. We got people in Atlanta, we got people in New York, and throughout the whole United States, we can pretty much put our hands on any kind of tape, which is good, because that's where it's supposed to come down to a network to free up the stuff when people harden it. There's a tape called The Naked Truth, and it deals with religion. And in that particular tape, The Naked Truth, dealing with some white boys that put this thing together in 1990, they said there's literally hundreds of parallels between Jesus and Horus, and literally hundreds of parallels between Jesus and Krishna. And these both entities predate the Jesus character 10,000 years with Horus and 5,000 years with Krishna. And then you have the whole Shiva aspect in which Krishna came from. You see, Hercules is the form of that whole Jesus concept. The whole Jesus concept, and Disney put out Hercules a couple of years ago. All that's nothing but information coming from ancient Africa. I want to get out of that word Africa, because we're talking about now, we have to get into the concept of the whole globe being our home. They have a pyramid second to the Great Pyramid in Egypt, right in China. But they won't show it to people, and they got that area blocked off that the rest of the world can't see, because the Chinese have no record of building pyramids. So therefore, if there's the second biggest pyramid in the world, other than second to the Great Pyramid in Hemmitt, and they got it roped off, or they got it sectioned off, but you can't see and won't allow you to see, is because it gives up the real origin of their civilization. Point blank. You see, point blank. They're talking about even things like 50 pyramids reported somewhere in Iraq. Some stuff underground, all types of stuff. So we talk about history that is being uncovered, where this thing here is vast, so vast until if we took the next 10 years, you come back 10 years later, the history of the earth will resemble something totally different than what we think now with all the knowledge we have. You see, all the knowledge we have. But in this particular book here, starting on page 141, there's a section in this particular book. I'm trying to find this section. On page 144, where he quotes this. Let's see if I can find the right part. And he talks about the black man. And I talked about this before, but I want to get the right one. This is the only thing that I didn't read over today. I just knew it was in the book. But I had the book for a couple of years and all. But let's see what page this thing is on. He talks about, in so many words, he's trying to allude to this fear that everybody has with the devil. Gerald Massey had figured it out. He had figured it out. And it goes on to say, well, I can paraphrase it, and so I can actually find one. He says that the black man was Negroid. Here it is. The black man without was Negroid within. As the natural phenomenon was the original devil put out the light by swallowing it increasingly as a subtle enemy or obstructor. So in so many words, a doubler of general adversary of man. So let's read that again. The black man without, black on the outside, was Negroid within, as his reflection remains the mirror of mythology. The darkness then was the natural phenomenon, was the original devil that put out the light by swallowing it increasingly as a subtle enemy or obstructor or doubler and general adversary of man. So in so many words, what he's talking about here is he's talking about the first part of the sentence. He's talking about something being Negroid within as well as out. He's talking about melanin. Then he goes on to say, well, they're talking about something that is metaphysical, biological, chemical, or whatever, that later on is written in the mythology and then misunderstood as being something evil, as the adversary. So we're talking about, you have Christ, and then you have the shadow. Christ is shadow, and the shadow is always the Antichrist. So that these are concepts like the yin and the yang, the light and the dark. And these are concepts that later on the races come in that doesn't understand the general mythology of the general science and the mythology, and they mistake the stuff for evil. You get it? So here he's making he's referencing something that originally was taught that Negroid without and Negroid within. He's talking about melanin. As we go on, we'll go into more and more of this as we go on about just exactly what this is talking about. We're going to go deeper and deeper into this stuff and try to sift through this. So this is and basically now this stuff, it goes like this. If we can go backwards, we'll start with religion. That would be moralistic and all the stuff that you learn. Then you would go into mythology, which would be the origin of where these stories come from. And then behind the mythology, they'll start breaking these stories down into concepts of psychology, chemistry, astronomy, astrology, physiologically, and they'll break all that down. So if we go forward, it'll be astronomy, astrology, physiology, biology, chemistry, aspects of high levels of spirituality, and then mythology that will explain all that. It will take all that advanced science and break it down into mythology to explain to the average person. And then later you would have religion, which would be based off of mythology, but become more political. Don't do this, don't do that, based on what person wants you to behave a certain way so he can benefit from the civilization. Either by benefiting from some political thing to rule over you or some type of pathology. They want to rule over a woman, so therefore she becomes the object of evil in every damn thing. You see what I'm saying? Or they want to rule over another race, then they become the object of evil. Or they want to rule over another competing spiritual system, so that other system becomes the object of evil. You see what I'm saying? So the Typhonians, which is the pre-dynastic Egyptians, they become the devil to the dynastic Egyptians. The Hebrews, which is a later form of Egyptian, the Egyptians become the devil to the Hebrews. The Christians, which is a later spin-off of a cult coming out of Hebrewism, the Hebrews become the devil to the doggone Christians. And then so on, the Christians become the devil to the Islam. And this thing goes on and on and on, and it gets out of hand, stuff like that. No. You see, and we're always still talking about he is a family fight, because we know that the architect of all of these things are still black. You know, architect of all of this is still black. You see what I'm saying? So, and the elements are in all of those particular things. So right now, before we go into that, can you give me a glass of water? Whatever. Anybody have any questions before we go into this thing of anything that's, you know, doesn't really matter. Any questions, period. Yeah.
Okay, one thing I know, you know, it's the business I'm in and they deal with melanin. And it's one thing I know, nobody want to talk about it. They want you to be quiet. They really don't want you to deal with it. And then you just know that there's something that we don't know.
It's what, melanin?
Yes. They really don't.
Yeah, well, it is interesting. It is interesting because I even noticed even in the metaphysical thing, I went through almost, for the last 14 years, I went through just about every book in every metaphysical bookstore in the East Coast and half the West. And you rarely see the word melanin.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? You rarely see the word melanin. You know, so we do know that has that light cut off. That's cool. Okay, all right, I just wanted to know. Okay, cool. So we do know that that's always a mystery. And the reason why that is because most of the stuff is still have to be accommodated with white. And with white people, if you start getting into stuff as the melanin and different things like that, then you have to address the fact. Whereas, and which I'm going to show in some of these books, where they actually say, the majority of them say that that their pineal glands and the pineal activity doesn't last past puberty. So when you start talking about pineal gland and melanin and stuff, you got to address the fact that why theirs doesn't work past puberty. And so therefore, they would rather delete this. And even one of the top scholars in the field, researchers, a guy by the name of Kenneth Grant out of England, and he even mentions that the pineal gland, when I find the actual piece, the pineal gland is dormant after puberty or dormant after childhood. So they would rather say it's dormant in everybody after childhood than to say it's dormant in them. And like me and T was talking about, basically the reason why we got a lot of problems with a lot of things is as far as not getting to the truth. It comes back to the European has to put blockage, or he has to put constrictions on everything when it comes to history, because he's only a laid up part of it. So therefore the history can only be 6,000 years. You see what I'm saying? And therefore, and also too, they would rather think that different pockets of everything you have is developed out of different parts of the world. Other than we can find that majority of the stuff that we have called knowledge, they had it all in one main library in the Nile Valley. Like take for instance, my sister-in-law, I got a sister-in-law, I met her when she was in college in the early 90s. She later on married my brother, and she started, and she and another sister named Aviva did a goddess lecture down in Atlanta when she finally came out and started doing what she was doing, the other sister was trying to do the goddess lecture for about a year. So she teamed up with my sister-in-law and they did this goddess lecture. And to show you how things spiritual go, when she went and did the research, she introduced a whole nother research and had my mouth open, me and the sister named Kimberly, who was like one of the goddess experts that was at the conference, had my mouth open where she introduced a whole nother research or information coming out of Hemmitt off the temple walls on two Marys that predates the Christian Mary, and this mythology of a creation story, how the world was, the universe was created by two sisters that got in a war with each other. And one wanted to keep the creation in the hemisphere, or in the stratosphere, or in the great beyond, within the context of the nothingness of the universe, and the other one wanted to expand the creation. And apparently the one who wanted to expand the creation won out. And there was two sisters called M-E-R-I. You see? And she found this in Budge's hieroglyphic dictionaries. So, looking and saying that there's nothing that didn't come up out of Africa, didn't come out of the Nile Valley, didn't come out of black people. You see what I'm saying? Well, we got that Mary. You see, the same mother of Jesus. Two Marys that was in one of the creation stories. You see, that was in one of the creation stories. You know, we know there's several creation stories, which is, here's another one to add, which there's a book, Marie-Louise von Franc's book, Creation Myths. So there's another creation story that they have to add. But this is very pertinent information. So it's just ongoing when it comes to doing the research on this stuff. Any more questions? Any more? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Right now I'm reading the Stargate Conspiracy.
Yeah, good book.
And they're talking about the Hall of Records or the Pyramid of Records that they may be looking for underneath the Sphinx.
Yeah.
And what's your...
well, my take on it is
that is something very important if it's to be found.
Well, my point is that this thing first showed up with Edgar Cayce. Edgar Cayce, the great psychic, was the first person to mention this stuff about a great hall of records that was under the Sphinx, and it would be opened up. And he was looking at it, but I don't think that he could understand what it was literally. Just like he said that in the last days there will be an avatar that will come called John Pineal. And John Pineal would bring the world to a new level of consciousness. So he's reading stuff, but he's not trained in the occult to understand that John, which is the Christian Elijah, and the Hebrew Elijah is the Egyptian Tahuti. You see what I'm saying? So John Pineal, the wisdom of Tahuti is the wisdom of alchemy. And so John Pineal means alchemical pineal or melanin pineal, because alchemy is the study of melanin. So he said Pineal, John Pineal will come, and John Pineal is one who comes before Christ. Well, he said John, which is John who comes before Christ. Pineal is the Christ. John, Tahuti, or Anubis, Horus. Horus is called the Great Face, which is the pineal gland. So this was metaphysical. He didn't understand that the basic was saying that the pineal glands in the last days will wake up and the third eye will open up, or be born in a race of people. You see what I'm saying? Same thing that the Rosicrucian Cosmos Conception had, real racist book, Rosicrucian Cosmos Conception, but they did put a lot of the stuff that they was holding on to, where it said that the pineal glands will open up in the last days. Well, what's the name printed that in her book, Finding of the Third Eye? Vera Stanley Adler. Vera Stanley Adler's book, The Finding of the Third Eye. She has the part of the Rosicrucian Cosmos Conception saying that the pineal glands will open up in the last days. So it's the same one that the Moors had, that the Rosicrucians got, but then Edgar Cayce got this and was thinking it was supposed to be a real person, which was a metaphysical thing of something opening up in the body. Well, he also got the great Sphinx. Under the Sphinx, would be a Hall of Records. Now he got all these people going, and that's what the book, the Stargate Conspiracy is talking about. They got a whole conspiracy, which is a hell of a book. I recommend get, because it really shows what the government is behind. One I didn't bring up, the Stargate Conspiracy. What's the guy name on? What's the name of that guy's name? One is
The author?
Yeah, the author. Something Penny, something. It's just called the Stargate Conspiracy, and it really shows what the government is really doing.
And something.
Huh?
Clive
Clive
Prince
Prince
and
something else. No, the first is Clive Prince, and it shows what they're really into. This book here shows what they're really behind.
Yes.
And trying to, and they go into everything. They go into everything, even deal with the black thing up in there. You go up in there, they deal with how they even go in and say how some of the occult people are racist. And they deal with the whole black thing that's going down. But Edgar Casey said that there would be something that would open up under the Sphinx, a Hall of Records. Well, it was metaphysical. Here he goes again. The Sphinx is Horus and Sekhmet, Horus and Maya complex. Horus means what? Heru means the great face. The hero, the word hero, you get the word Heru, which is Egyptian for Horus, the Christ. You get the word hero, which is the Greek word for Horus or Heru, and you get and it's called the great face. The great face. Now you keep breaking it down. Where is the great face in the Bible? The face of God in the Bible is when Jacob wrestled with the angel all night, and he saw what? In the morning when daybreak,
Pineal.
he saw what? Pineal, which was called what? The face of God. You see what I'm saying? The face of God.
Is that the small face one?
That's the small face one. The face of God is the pineal gland. You see what I'm saying? So the face of God, with Horus or Heru, is called the great face. So we already got so the Sphinx represents the great face. Okay, under the great face, or the pineal gland, is the Hall of Records. That's called the Akashic Records. What is the Hall of Records? The Hall of Records is the genetic memory bank encoded inside of the melanin. The Hall of Records, they call it the Akashic Records. Or in the Bible, they say these books will be open. And people who bear the name. All this stuff is metaphysical. So the Hall of Records is nothing. Where is the Hall of Records? The Hall of Records is within the great face. The great face is the pineal gland. The small face one, you see what I'm saying? With the small, which is the pineal gland up under the brain, or within the brain. And then there's the Hall of Records, all of the memory bank. So he misconstrued this, and the Education Society has been buying up parts of, buying up excavation. They have to go in and bid on who's going to excavate something in Kemet. So they have got, in the Hume Society, and there's different societies, they have to go in and bid, and the Arabs don't care. Shit, they like, they ain't our history. Highest bidder, So they have to go and bid on who's going to go and dig and try to find these Hall of Records. And literally, they're not going to find no Hall of Records because the Hall of Records is in us. You see what I'm saying? Is inside of us. Now, the ultimate people in the occult knows this. You see what I'm saying? That's why, and I talked about this before, I've been talking about this last couple of years, that's why they're coming to us now. Black people who's supposed to know something, they're coming to us now acting real nice and trying to get us to join their secret societies. You see, trying to get us to join their secret societies. They're doing that now because they need us to give them all this information. So what they'll do is say, hey, look, and it's going to get to the point where they're going to go, look, they'll step into young brothers, like some brothers just coming out of college, one of the brothers that graduated FAMU. Well, his last year in FAMU, he heard me, and something woke up in him. But he's one of these cats that's a researcher too. So he's doing all this research in all these books. And so when he was talking to one of these white boys, they realized he had something in his mind other than most niggas who don't. So they invited him to come and join the Crawley OTO. Because they say, because we're doing research, we want you to do research, we want you to write some papers. And they're going to go to the point where they say, we'll pay you. So the money is no object to white folks. They can say, hey, look, we give you, it can get to the point where they go, we can give you a salary for $50,000 a year. On the side, just to do research. You see, because they want to know what's coming out of our minds. Because our minds hold Akashic records. You see, so now this is the new thing now, is to get black people who are conscious to somewhat come in and aid in doing research so that they can be saved. Because remember now, these people have been in this thing for about right around the same time that we were getting out of slavery, out of physical slavery of the Civil War. It was one time they started going into this occult stuff. Remember, they translated the hieroglyphics in the 1830s. You see what I'm saying? And there was a whole resurgence. Right after Napoleon went up into Kemet, there was a resurgence of all this particular information and stuff. They call it Egyptomania and stuff. And they started getting in, and all this led to later occult societies. And so now they've been in this thing for close to 140-something years. And they ain't made one convert to Christ on that particular level. They done did all kinds of spook stuff and said, now it's over now. Now they're looking and saying, we well into the millennium now, and hey, we ain't hitting the lick out of snake. You see, so therefore, we need to get the people that we know that's dealing with this type of stuff. You see what I'm saying? And they know that the only people they can be is the people who's privy to the information first of all. You see, and that's us. The Africans in America, and this what came out of this particular conscious community. And so that hall of records is inside of us. Some of them actually know it, but that's not going to stop them, because in the Stargate Conspiracy, they're over there and they're digging and they're doing all kinds of stuff. It's an amazing book when they go into all of the actual stuff, and they're showing what's really behind these particular people. Now, what's that, brother?
I just wanted to ask you some questions. Can you give a quick explanation of the origin of the Caucasian man?
Oh, yeah, well, it's interesting. I did 2 tapes on it. One is Human Artificial, and the other one is called Immigrant Human. Human Artificial I did actually 10 years ago, February '93. And I did the other one, the first part of 2001, called Immigrant Humans. And I did the one in '93, and I had a great deal of information to do a full 5-hour tape, 6-hour tape. And then I had to go and do another tape and tack another 4 or 5 hours on it, 6 hours on this tape, because I had got just that much information that came out about the European. Well, I want to give two explanations. I might have talked about it the last time I was here, because there's 2 explanations, because it was 2 schools of thought. One came as late. One of the final elements of this came as late as December of 2002. Okay, the first thing here is yes, based on the Egyptians, and they say it in the Hermetic text, that our problem is we learn how to make another man. So based on genetic engineering, we know that, and my tapes deal with just the endless amount of data that proves that most of the Afrocentric scholars could not basically say, because remember now, these people were working for the universities at the time.
Okay.
So, you know what I'm saying, working for the universities at the time, so they just couldn't come up and say that the white man was the devil and try to prove this stuff. You see what I'm saying? Last scholar that outside of the Nation of Islam that presented his case of them being even psychotic, we do believe, with Bobby E. Wright, wrote the book, Psychopathic Racist White People. And all of a sudden in 81 he comes down with cancer. You see what I'm saying? He comes down with cancer. You know, it's just interesting here. You know, well, hell, they took John Coltrane out after having an epiphany and all this stuff was spiritual. All of a sudden he just come down with cancer overnight. You see, overnight. But in so many words, we have the genetic engineering from some priesthood in the ancient world. We link it back to some Kemetic origins and a breakaway group of priests that went up into Europe and used it as an incubation center. But we're talking about genetic engineering. They had that kind of technology. There's so many books on it. Rudolf Steiner wrote about it in his book Atlantis and Lemuria. And it was the only book of his that it's not printed today, but you can still get it from Kissinger and other places, Health Research. he wrote about it, about a new race of man being created. And then his contemporary H.G. Wells, who was a part of the same secret society, wrote the novel version of it, of The Island of Dr. Moreau. Same thing basically as genetic engineering. So we do have that particular part. What we found out recently is now come to light is that the Diop's true cradle theory of people traveling up and mutating based on climate adaptability is also a part of what happened. So we have two kind of histories. Well, you got to understand, the Earth is extremely old. And Homo sapiens sapien, I don't even like to say that because I don't see no text where the Egyptians say that we was 8 before we came down here. The Egyptians and all the ancient stuff that I study say that man has been here from the beginning. You see what I'm saying? So one guy asked me, you heard me talk about this before, but one guy asked me as far as Thursday, well, how can you account for all those different stages of bones we have that don't look human? I say those are different stages of apes. Just like there's different species of dog, different species of elephant, different species of lion, and we have different species of animals that we have that's concurrently consistent with different species of ape. But hell, he already told you it was a missing link. Well, you know what I'm saying, right there, letting you know that that's some bull. But so that's still been a confusing aspect. But the new theory is this: you got two concepts. Come to find out, both of them are true. One of them is you have genetic engineering, and that is a hybrid monster-like figure. The other one has is climate adaptability, which constitutes for white people who, as Richard Kane says, that 4% that have an open pineal gland are darker-haired white folk. You see what I'm saying? Most of the people, humans on the earth have dark hair.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Now, they have dark hair. So, it also, the other races outside of black can also constitute for climate adaptability, as well as one little species of white person who has climate adaptability. You see what I'm saying? Who has climate adaptability. And that will constitute for white folks who are artistically inclined. Like you said, damn, I need some white people music too. How am I going to do that? He got it. You know? I've heard some white people music, you go, oh, this is some genius stuff. Now, I've heard most white people music, you be like, this is just a straight up garbage.
You're right.
But every now and then you get some stuff that fires what we know. You be like, how do they do that? That's because you have a genetic aspect of white folks that was based on genetic climate adaptability. Climate adaptability means that the melanocytes, and we're still talking about melanin, the melanocytes does not register how much melanin you have. So melanin is not, how much melanin you have is not based on your skin color. Yeah. Otherwise, we'd say that the light-skinned black people have less melanin than dark-skinned black people. But we know that light-skinned black people are just as much creative, just as much talented, and just as much intellectual as dark-skinned black people. You see what I'm saying? So this also constitutes for other races of the world who have what is called inner melanin. We're not talking about melanocytes. That just happens to be the people who live on the darkest part of near the equator going to produce more melanin for the skin. But what we're talking about here is the inner melanin. And this constitutes for other races, like I do know this too. Them Hispanics, now they got a lot of white Hispanics, but you got a lot of, and you say, well, you can tell the ones that's Negroes, the ones that they kept poor up to now. Yeah. Them ain't nothing but niggas. You see what I'm saying? Prairie niggas, like they say. You know them ain't nothing but Negroes. You know, you see what I'm saying? And you can tell the ones that they keep poor. This is interesting about the white boy. He's so crafty, he can go around the world and he can tell the darker skinned races of people are the ones he can go to war with, and the lighter skinned ones is the one he can ally with. So your Japanese becomes his ally.
Okay.
But your Vietnamese, he goes to war with, and those are very dark people who have a black origin.
Mm-hmm.
Who have a black origin. Your, who have a black origin. some reason they can't get it together with China because China still has that black origin. You see what I'm saying? It still has that particular black origin. So now what we're saying here now, based on this new information, because how do we get the new information is we try to correct stuff academically, but then on the other hand, when we get past the academic where we can no longer go any further, I asked the question this Christmas, was the theory right about climate adaptability? And the Spirit said yes. Then it said, I said, so what about genetic engineering? And the Spirit also said yes. Then we must understand why is it that this country is opening the floodgates to all these doggone Mexicans. It's almost like they're trying to make something a percentile of blackness. They're even is proud to say now that they are becoming the minority. And this is interesting here to show you that everything is in a ritual. Now when the Matrix came out, the Matrix Reloaded, the next day they had The View. That's what's the name show? Barbara Walters and her, and the black group woman, what's the name? Star Jones and all them sit around the table. So they had the cast of The Matrix that was going to come on. Before the cast of The Matrix came on, Star Jones said, I just cannot believe that I just saw a movie where race was not a factor. And so the white girl piggybacked off of it and said it wasn't a factor because there hardly no white folks in it. The movie was full of black people. Although I did notice that most of the top people were white, like the woman that sat on the council, and Neil, they calling him the Messiah and stuff like that. But even they even said with him, even when you look at the part about him, his father was what? His mother was Hawaiian, and the father was Chinese, or something like that. They're saying he's not altogether white, huh?
Yeah, he's Asian.
Asian and Hawaiian type mixed type thing. But anyway, they talking on the thing and talking about how the movie was basically down in Zion, or how the movie was basically black. And they got a white woman on there that's Italian. She's the one that be tracking all the jokes. She said, yeah, something's going on here because it's trying to say that America we're going to be the next minority. And I'm looking at her and she was saying, yeah, America is, the face of America is changing, so therefore the movies have to reflect that. And she kept on talking. And she said, well, I do know that in my race, as far as, because she's Italian, the Italian Americans, the birth rate is completely wiped out. She said, we're not hardly having any children. So it looks like, she said, that the society that's going to come is going to be a beige society, not going to be white. They're not going to be no whites left at all. This is what the woman said. She said, and that might be for the better. So this white woman was talking about, she said, and that might be for the better. She bad witness to the beige society, and she said that might be for the better. So you get a sense that America's trying to do something. Now, I'm going to show it tomorrow. I got it upstairs. I didn't bring it. I'm going to show it tomorrow. There's a picture. If you look real close, and I didn't bring it the last time, Condoleezza Rice is standing up in the White House. And she looked like she's running the show, and what's her name is sitting at the desk, Bush, like he's the secretary. Now, when you first look at it, for the untrained eye, you'll probably think it's Bush, and she's just standing up dictating. But they got this widescreen shot. You see, and although she might be a yes woman or whatever the deal here is, the roles that they play based on role playing, the way they set stuff up. You got the three top people running the country: Kofi Annan, UN, Colin Powell, and Condoleezza Rice, and then the rest of the country they letting in Mexicans every 5 days and giving them permits to work, who's supposed to be illegal aliens. You see what I'm saying? So you're getting this sense that something is going on a ritual-wise on how they're going about doing certain things. So we're going to deal with that. Any more questions? We're going to get into this This lecture here is dedicated completely to melanin. I have gone, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to try to take everything we can know about melanin, the mysteries of it, and put it on one tape. You see what I'm saying? So what's that?
You know, I was just sitting here and my mind was just, like you were saying, reflecting all the information that has come to me. I truly believe now that I have been placed in a situation where I have a real clear concept of what's going on. Can I share this with you just a minute?
Yeah.
Remember I told you the company I work for? They have done extensive work on melanin. And that's the one that Mona Harris was involved with. Okay. One of the main things that's like a burden on me is the pineal gland. And she understood that when this gland does not secrete two types of hormones, you become depleted in your immune system as well as your spirituality and ability to reason. Now you know about the noni juice.
Yeah.
The noni juice, which comes from the Polynesian islands, I was just over there. Listen to this. I was just over there and my eyes were just open because over there the French have really taken over. But there were so many pyramids there, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I kept telling my husband, that looks like a pyramid because we were able to live in those huts off the Pacific, I guess it's the Pacific Ocean. And we were able to see all these, but they were covered with, like you say, trees and landscape. Now let me tell you an experience I had. We went on a tour, and we went up to this waterfall, which means that you had to climb up. Let me tell you what happened, Bobby. When I went up to that, we got to the top, it was a struggle for me to get up there. I was just exhausted. But once I got up there, and that waterfall came down, guess what? My energy level went up to, it was unreal. So there is a connection because you got to remember, the people that run their company are they're Mormons. So when you connect Mormon with more, there's a connection.
But you know, they even said it when they said that one of their founders, or two of their founders was they say African American, and they talk about El Morey and the Moors. Hakeem Bey has done work on that, and the whole Mormon thing. The whole Mormon thing based on that. And I'm more inclined, you can't take this stuff and sweep it under the rug because there's more and more information coming out in America based on things. Now, let me show you, like, take for instance. So it's interesting because all that stuff is connected. Like, take for instance, they came on the History Channel and did a special on the Louisiana Purchase, which basically gave you the rest of America almost, all the way up into Canada, the Louisiana Purchase. And they said the Louisiana Purchase came about based on a little island in the Caribbean called Haiti. You know, France owned all of that up into Canada. France sent their generals and stuff down to Haiti to contain the war. Unfortunately, by Haiti, although Haiti won the war, and it was a combination of the voodoo, the fist fighting, the slave know-how, and yellow fever. They lost, Napoleon lost the best generals that he had, he lost in Haiti. And that's when his defeat started coming from Russia, and later on led to Waterloo, is because the best generals he had, they sent to Haiti, and all of them died. He gets desperate because they need money, and they going, goddamn it, sell what the hell you can sell. And therefore, America gets the Louisiana Purchase for some ridiculous sum, which is nothing, just like the whole New York thing. They basically gave it away, but they gave it away based on one, and they said, because there was one enigma in this whole thing with Napoleon, the island of Haiti crippled Napoleon in them. So here it is, they're coming out with all this particular information now. You see what I'm saying? All this particular information now. Now they even coming out with a thing on the guy book on how the Chinese came over here and discovered America before the white man. Now we know that the blacks go, we got the old man, that's the whole thing. You get the movie The Road to El Dorado, which my add, because I'm not all from the Melanin. It's a little cartoon movie, and in the movie they go in a little cave, and they got the old man kids right in the doggone movie. The Olmec heads. And in there, but the city of El Dorado and the city of gold. Here it goes again, it's like the Hall of Records. They learned of a city of El Dorado and a city of gold that they never found, because the city of gold and the city of El Dorado was a mystical city. It is like the upper room is the pineal gland and the gold of the gods and all that stuff with the melanin.
Oh.
You see what I'm saying? With the melanin. And it's a mystical thing that they took literal. El Dorado means melanin, and the city of melanin. I always wonder why I love them down the El Dorado Cadillacs. Especially the one from the 70s. You know what I'm saying? Now, but they had the Olmec heads up in there, so this particular stuff is actually coming out. So, but then again, on the other hand, like the pyramids, so they got a whole thing of the Chinese. They got Chinese bases that George Washington and them found in the Potomac River when they was crossing the Delaware. They found Chinese bases, so they come to find out the Chinese discovered America before them. You see what I'm saying? There's a whole book out on how the Chinese discovered America down there 40 years before they did. So this stuff is actually, there's a new book out on something about the black man's, a new book out put out by a white guy on the African origins of America. You see what I'm saying? So all of that stuff is all connected. Any more questions before I go into the...
When you speak of the pineal and the secretion of the melanin, what is its relationship to the pituitary gland?
Pituitary gland is like the mother. The pineal gland secretes the melanin. The pituitary gland is what regulates the melanin throughout the body. You see, and it is in relationship to each other. Like Horus would be the pineal gland. Isis or Aset, the mother, would be the pituitary gland. Which is interesting because I got some dynamite information that we're going to go into right now. I'm going to pour a libation. Give me one more glass of water. Hold on 1 minute. Go to this restroom. Give me one more glass of water. We're going to pour the libations. And then we're going to start this thing off.
You got started.
Okay. Still rolling, right? All right. Okay. I announced this the last time I was here. I think the time before that you have melanin implants that they're now doing with a place called Epitan, which they're implanting melanin in white folks that give them this particular whole melanin thing for suntan reasons and all of this type of stuff. And so they have this thing going on. And it's just more and more stealing our stuff, or stealing our particular melanin, and the type of research that they're dealing with now, and they can get that kind of melatonin or whatever to be able to implant it, and some kind of way put some type of implant in the body, and it secretes melanin in the skin. There's just more and more stuff of the Nazi doctors, or the Frankenstein doctors, and different stuff that they're actually dealing with. I want to go into an origin right now of just exactly what is melanin on a particular aspect, on a primordial level. There was a book that came out. See, there's a red book right there. Yeah, you got your hand on. Give me that book there. There's a book that came out in 2001. It's called The Secret Teachings by Gene Keeper. Genekiffer. And a few people got one. Me, a brother here. Who's first? Who called me that? Alvin, brother named Alvin Pride got it. I called the team, a couple other people got it. You got it? Did you ever get it? Sister Fanny, a couple of people. I called Charles Finch to get it. And it's a book called The Secret Teachings. The reason why this book, it had a dust cover that was such a ridiculous dust cover because it got a big old white woman on with a big old white dress. It was just so horrible looking to it. I took mine off and I know a T-book. He took his off too. I said, I see he couldn't deal with the cover also. Gene Keeper, The Secret Teachings, in this big book here, this is the guy that was inspired by Gerald Massey, which is one of the few people that still uses Massey. And so and it had this big ridiculous cover on it. And the book was only like $29 or $30. $35 for almost 600 pages or something like that. Secret Teachings, yeah, which was an excellent price. But the key here is there's a section in this particular book, and I should have went and marked it, but I think I can find it. There's a section in this particular book that they show two things, and all this stuff is connected. We put all this stuff together. There's a section in this book, outside of him, dealing with Gerald Massey, there's a section in this particular book where he has a picture of what is called the blood of Tiamat. It's the blood of Tiamat. And all, and I was putting together this stuff and all, I should have. And I had the book and stuff, but I didn't think about it until I got up here. And luckily he had one. But there's a section in here on the blood of Tiamat. And they show this medallion or something of the ancient world of her blood. And in her blood is these thousands of little grippies or dogs that look like Anubis figures or canine figures within the blood. This explains a couple of things because this also explains something a bit about melanin. Now you want to go get and also melanin being the devil that they're talking about, the double. Here it is on page 121. I'm going to pass this around and I'm going to see, you have a way that you can zoom in?
Oh, yeah.
If you get the second omen, that's the second one, part 2. And they took some the number 2. The third one was hell. That's when he grew up. But the first one was when he was a baby. The second one when he was a teenager.
Okay,
that one. And they took some of his blood. And when they say his blood is that of canine.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can see how well you can zoom in. And then we might pass this around for you to see this thing.
Yeah, I got it.
You got it. In this medallion here is all these little dogs, little canine dogs. That's also the Anubis figure. And in that those canine dogs and all that you see here, they say that's the blood of Tiamat. Now Tiamat being a form of the great mother that was overthrown, and her body was used to make the earth and the ocean. And her husband was overthrown, Kingu. His blood was used to make man. You see, so we have it here. That's page 121 in Gene Keeper's book, The Secret Teachings. This is the same guy that wrote a book called Kundalini for a New Age, where he says there's devices in the body that will come online whenever our race is seeming to go dormant or facing destruction. So they already know. Well, who are they talking about, first of all? You might want to pass this around, just show it. You look at the little dogs. Who are they talking about? Well, obviously they're killing black people all over the planet. And obviously they're killing black people here in America. So apparently the people that they are careful of are conscious black people. They said, now Gene Keeper's book, The Kundalini of a New Age, says that there are devices that is in the body that will come online and protect or destroy whatever is about to kill it or whatever is about to make it in danger. So obviously they're not talking about dead black people out here, because they killed them a dime a dozen. And obviously they're not talking about Africans and other people that's not conscious, or black people worldwide. They're talking about the conscious black man and black woman at a particular time, especially at this particular time.